laps without a pit stop.
Donnie Kite's gonna get through it all and score his first career win. Saturday Night Racing League throwback at Charlotte goes to Josh Adams.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's for all the glory. There are many crown jewel races across North America, but none have stood the test of time more than this venue. And here tonight, we're at America's oldest, second oldest racetrack, and maybe one of the oldest racetracks still to host one of the biggest races ever known to mankind. Live here tonight on VSPEED, it's the first ever Indy 250 from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Bradley Cooper, limited host here tonight. And I say limited because I have a limited experience in this car. We got to turn it over to our co-host and co-commentator, Morgan Cook. He knows all about this type of racing, this open wheel. Morgan, I know you're excited. I'm excited, but I can only hope to be as excited as you are for what's to come.
Yeah, there's only one race like it, and it's the Indy 250 here with VSPEED. So glad to be able to bring this event with all these incredible VSPEED drivers who we'll talk about in a second to you at home on your couch watching this or on your phone or wherever you are. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe so you don't miss a moment of this great racing action here on VSPEED. But I am so excited for Indianapolis. This is the big one here for IndyCar.
When you talk about this racetrack, it's unique in its own right. Very flat corners. We have seen Indianapolis before on VSPEED, but not in an open wheel stock car as it was intended. 9 degrees of banking in the turns, and it's practically flat all the way around this rectangle. It opened August 12th, 1909, and it was originally paved with, I believe the number was over 3 million bricks, and some of that remnant's still on the start-finish line. The history here at this racetrack, it goes all the way back to when the very first gasoline engine was able to drive cars around and actually move under its own power. And when you put a man behind the wheel of a car for the first time, and then you put the second man behind the wheel of a car for the second time, they immediately go to work on finding out who is the fastest, and that's how this place was pretty much brought to light. And of course, here on iRacing and on VSPEED, you're going to see just that. It's going to be open wheel racing at its best. In a race analysis on your screen for tonight, 100 laps, of course, this 2.5 mile oval at 60 miles per hour on the pit road speed. And that's going to be treacherous here, Morgan. These cars, very difficult to get on and off of pit road.
Yeah, the brakes are phenomenal. You're able to slow down very quickly. The problem is the tires don't always grip up the way they need to. A lot of drivers will slide through the pit box. A lot of drivers will have issues exiting the pit lane here on those colder tires. You cannot touch the grass in these things. You will end up in the catch fence on the other side of the racetrack.
So with that, we're going to go trackside and get that grid up on your screen. Here we go for 100 laps starting on the pole here tonight. A new name here on my end of things. It's going to be Justin Michael, the number 87, starting on the top spot. A 40.036. He'll have Chris Simard in the number 77 of VSPEED's very own, starting at his outside. Christian Peterson and Alex Forget Berube from Racing Revolution will be row number 2. And then 5th position is Steve Tucker, Seth Hatchell. Good to see him back out on the racetrack. The number 8, starting in 6th. 7th spot goes to Thomas Stokes, Adam Baker. There's the owner of VSPEED, going to start in the top 10. Then you have Nick Stein, Dakota Floyd, rounding out your top 10.
And Aaron Smith, favorite in this race, starting 11th as we enter turn 3, coming to the green flag. Logan Waterden will start in 12. Chad Klinger from SNR will be 13th. 14th, Matt Robinson. 15th will be Sean Langton from VSRL with his teammate Justin Ritchie. 17th, Rob Rader, the owner of Racing Revolution. Jeff Wright, the owner of SNR, will share the 9th row with Mr. Rader. 17th, 18th, 19th, Jeremy Burns, and your top 20 is rounded out by Brian Hennings. As we are just now about to take the green flag here, Brad.
And we'll continue to roll that grid on the bottom of your screen, but here we go tonight for 100 laps. The first inaugural VSPEED Indy 250 at Indianapolis. Oh, we got a car on the inside wall in the back. That's Dylan Picklesheimer in the 27. Caution is out. He got loose off of turn 4 on lap number 1, and that car is busted.
Yeah, that is less than operable at this particular stage of the game. The good news for him, as you saw on the race analysis earlier in the show here, one faster pair, meaning you basically get a mulligan, right? A lot of these drivers have never driven this car before. So it's to be expected that some drivers are going to have trouble acclimating, and this is the case of deep in traffic and didn't quite realize how tight it was going to get when we're up to speed at 230 miles an hour, didn't quite turn enough, and hit that outside wall hard and then hit the inside wall harder.
And these corners being as flat as they are, there's no embankment to help these cars turn. So it's all about, you can educate me more on this, the weight jackers, the ARB, and there's so much going into this car on the fly when you get into clean air versus dirty air. These drivers are constantly making calculations as they go, to help this car turn and get around this place.
Absolutely. So in a stock car like we normally broadcast here on VSPEED, you really only have one adjustment mid-race, and that's your brake bias. In the Indy car, you have brake bias, you have front and rear ARBs, which stiffen the suspension, 5 clicks for each front and back. You have a weight jacker, which has 40 micro adjustments that stiffens or softens your right rear spring. Apologies. And then you also have fuel maps as well. Now, while that won't make the car necessarily drive any better, that will certainly help you with fuel mileage, which the Indy 250 always ends up in a fuel mileage race here. Yeah, so that's so many things behind the wheel that these drivers are really pilots, but they're also scientists at the same time, trying to engineer the most speed out of these cars for any given corner. And part of what we saw with Picklesheimer right there is the driver in front of him kind of took away his air, crossed his nose with the wake. And as soon as you do that in these cars, it's like you're driving on ice. It just doesn't turn anymore. And he found the outside wall. We got a split decision on pit road for the first caution here.
Yeah, it looks like a top off. We were just talking about that fuel mileage and some drivers electing to come down. Chad Klinger leading them onto pit road. We have a few other takers just behind him with Jordan Nice. We have the 42 of Kyle Adams. Connor Horn also electing to hit pit road. Co-commentator on Saturday Night Racing League, making his debut on a VSPEED broadcast in the car. And this seems like fuel only stops for everybody that came down. Chad Klinger leading them back out onto the racetrack.
Yeah, this is not a car you take 2 tires with. It's 4 tires or nothing. There is no chance you're taking fronts or rears or lefts or rights. It's all of the above or none of the above. Any change in grip from corner to corner, and you might as well just put it back on the truck because it's going to be destroyed in one of these outside walls somewhere.
Justin Michael, Chris Simard, the front row here for this next restart. Thomas Stokes, Steve Tucker, Nick Stein in the top 5. Not a lot of change for position really overall, but you had a few drivers that came down pit road that kind of interfere with those numbers. But in the top 5, you had Nick Stein move up 4 positions. You had the 11 of Thomas Stokes move up 4 positions. So these guys on the move quickly into the top 5. We talked about how this car gets such a big run. It's aero dependent. We were talking about how you had on-the-fly adjustments to keep this car underneath of you. But that's because it is so aero dependent. And the draft here at Indy with the long straightaways, it makes it very easy to pull up to a car and get to the back bumper just before you complete that pass and carry all that momentum into the turn.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're going to see it on the green flag runs here today. What we call the dragon's tail, the snake. It's drivers in front trying to get so the driver behind them can't get the draft. So they'll go all the way down on the back stretch to the white line, on the front stretch to the inside wall, in efforts to have the driver behind them get cut off from the draft. The driver behind them will follow, and then everyone throughout the field is going to follow the car in front of them. Because if you lose draft here in this Indy car, you're probably going to lose 5/10 a lap, and you don't want that to happen. For those who are stock car drivers, it's similar to Daytona Talladega in that way, but just less drivers right together. And to put a bow on what you said earlier, Brad, single file restarts here in IndyCar, not double file. So we will have just one driver on the front row, and everyone else is going to have to time it properly to not get left behind.
So with some of these cars that are starting outside of the top 10 here tonight, that adds to the fact that it doesn't take long to get to the front. And if you're familiar with the stock car element of what we broadcast here on VSPEED, you can kind of equate it to more of a super speedway race. However, the corners, like we said, shallow banking, very low embankment all the way around this place. So it's going to make it rather difficult to stay on this race surface in traffic. And you got a few other cars coming back into top off as we have delayed the green one more lap here. I think some guys getting caught up to the tail end of the field. And with that, I think we have an opportunity here to maybe pull up a driver. Take your pick here, Morgan Cook.
Well, how about our biggest mover of the race, which would be Max Cost. Let's see if we can have a chat with driver 63, currently running in the 22nd position. Hey Max, it's Morgan and Brad up in the VSPEED booth. You got a copy?
Yep, I hear you guys.
All right, well, up 8 spots already in this race. You are the biggest mover by a long margin here. What's it going to take to get the next 22 and get up and win this thing?
A lot. This is like my second IndyCar race, so I have like no idea what I'm doing.
Fantastic. Well, no better place to do it than here in the VSPEED 250. How has, under the limited laps we've done, how has the car felt when we were under green?
Pretty tight. It's pretty tight. And I think we saw that when a whole bunch of cars hit the wall and then wrecked. So, I'm just gonna try not to get that tight and keep my car straight, but not straight in the wall.
I hear you. Got anything, Brad?
I see that you stuck with the zero candy bar theme on that machine. Max, you said it's your first race here, but you're in a field of drivers with all kinds of mixes of experience. You're running 22nd right now. Do you think you could at least pull off a top 10 here tonight?
Oh, we'll see.
And we are wrecking on the restart here. Oh, big melee in the back of the field. Good luck, Max.
But here we go. Back here live and racing as we go green flag on lap number 6. Now on to number 7. And it looks like Justin Michael trying to break the draft from Chris Simard. Battle for the lead here on this restart.
Power move around the outside for the 77. He's not quite going to be able to make it happen here down the short chute of turn 3, maybe off of turn 4. He's going to have to fall back in behind Justin Michael. Battle, that was attempt number 1 for the lead. I'm sure we'll see many, many more here in this Indy 250.
On the onboard, you can see the cocoon that these drivers are racing in and the real life spectrum. Oh, big crash in the back of the field.
4 drivers involved. We got Michael Wingo's in it. Dakota Floyd was part of it as well. Somebody coming back a little further in the field. Is that Connor Horn? It is Connor Horn as well involved. Might have been a separate incident.
They're going to try to salvage these cars back to pit road. But 32nd spot here for Connor Horn. And, when you're making your first appearance here on VSPEED, you never want it to go this way. But Connor Horn up in the broadcast booth with us week in and week out there for Saturday Night Racing League. He's been doing, I believe, 4 seasons now of the Cup Series with us up there, and 2 of the Challenger Series going with Jeff Wright. I think Connor filled in for some of those. Not a good start for some of these guys. 30th on back.
Definitely not. It all kind of started with the restart. We saw a driver, I believe it was Jordan Nice, got put in the fence with a big checkup at the end of the line. That's kind of the hazard here of these single file restarts. Guys trying to jump it and then they miss it and all that. But there you see the accident back there with Dakota Floyd, and I forget who the driver was. Oh, there's somebody got clipped, the 27 machine. Got a part of that as well. Picklesheimer, who's been in 2 accidents already. There's Connor Horn.
Connor Horn got a piece of it, and then right after that, there was contact again with the same car.
Yeah, Michael Wingo did not have a great 3 or a great 4 there, and a little bit of netcode as well on Dakota Floyd. So can't, it's kind of same incident for both situations actually. Just came down off the wall and clipped the driver on the inside. It happened here.
There's the netcode you mentioned in the pre-race.
Definitely. In our drivers meeting to all the drivers, mentioned that these cars have more netcode than anything else on the service at 230 miles an hour. You would expect that iRacing might be off by a foot or so, and in that case they were. Two drivers collided in iRacing's eyes, and around one of them went into the outside wall, and a couple fast repairs had to be burned before lap 10 in this race. But this is going to definitely change fuel mileage for a lot of drivers here pitting on lap 10. Go what I've been told from the drivers, 30 to 36 depending on how you work the fuel maps in the draft. So this gets you fairly close to halfway, potentially, pitting right here. So curious to see how it shakes out for the drivers who did not and did pit.
We're seeing a lot of pre-race jitters, I would say, for the most part here. Some guys that are maybe inexperienced. I know I mentioned it there in the start of this broadcast. I would have no business out here. So kudos to those guys that maybe have limited experience. We're not trying to get you down. It's definitely a car that we're not used to running here on VSPEED. And on top of that, we're in a field of cars that are mixed amongst many different leagues between Racing Revolution and ORRL. We've got guys from Apex, Goat Locker. Oh man, the list goes
VSRL,
on. VSRL,
SNR. There's
just
some
keeps
Mystic
going.
guys in here as well. Yeah, the list goes on and on. Misfits as well. It's on and on and on. Tons and tons of leagues represented here. Even some from outside the VSPEED sphere who we are very excited have joined us for this event here tonight. And this is a very stacked field. Some of the best that we've ever seen on VSPEED are here in this race. And I think that also kind of adds to the pressure that if there's one race all calendar year that you want to show up for, you want to run well in, it's these VSPEED events that we host on a semi-regular basis, this being one of them, the Invitational here coming up in the summer. Those are the ones you really want to be dialed in for, because you get to show what you can do against some of the best competition VSPEED has to offer.
I'm glad you mentioned the Invitational, because we have an unofficial date. We're going to try to aim for the second week of July. So go ahead and hang your hats on that Friday and Saturday for the 11th and 12th of July 2025. That will be our second ever VSPEED Invitational. And if you're not familiar with how that went, last year we had to turn drivers away. We had over 60 applicants. I think the number got closer to 70, and we took 36 cars in 2 splits, split them up amongst each other based off iRating, tried to make it as equal as possible for 2 races on Friday, and then took the top 16 or 17 finishers. I think there was an asterisk there with one driver making it in on merit, and put them all in a final 2-race battle. We're going to do that all over again here on the second week of July, so go ahead and mark your calendars for that. But outside of that, you've got championships, you've got leagues that have brought home very successful back-to-back seasons. You've got leagues that are deep in the history, and it's all coming to fruition right here on this racetrack, and a historic racetrack here tonight. 3rd restart of the evening, and Justin Michael, the command car for this restart. He'll go into turn 1 with the top spot, and already starting to snake to break the draft.
This time we're able to make it through the initial start. Oh, we are already wrecking in the back again. Oh, big crash. Driver on his lid, flipping around the racetrack. Is that Kyle Adams? It is Kyle Adams on his lid here. The halo doing its work.
It's working hard.
Working really hard. Might have to get a halo on board and see what that looks like from driver 42. Owner of Misfit Racing League, Race MRL.
What went wrong here on this restart?
Yeah, if you look out the nose here, this is just a case of we think everyone's going, and all of a sudden there's a big checkup. Someone somewhere misanticipated what was happening in front of them, and it's an accordion, like we talk about Daytona Talladega, how someone checks up at the front of the line, and you usually find it around 25th when it comes to fruition. You can see right there, a couple drivers check up, big checkups, and then all of a sudden there's one driver just can't avoid it because it's going too fast. That was Kyle Adams. Flipped off of a tire, and now he's on his lid like a Beyblade. Back in
and Sean Mullahan was actually the car there with a little bit of a gap. He was trying to give some room. But you can see it's such a checkup, and I think he ran over a piece of debris, actually.
Yeah, the good news is debris won't puncture in iRacing, if I'm not mistaken. At least I don't think it does in these cars.
Well, you can watch here. It loses traction for certain. Watch right here.
That is interesting that as soon as you hit that debris, it broke sideways. It is a good point. But regardless, here on this restart, our 3rd one of the day, and another Another attempt at getting past the start-finish line for the entire field has been thwarted. We'll get it, I'm sure. I know Benjamin Richards, our race control tonight, is working hard to try and get these drivers calmed down and get them so that we can complete a few laps under green, as we're 14 laps into this one. It's a tough racetrack, it really is, and all the drivers, and there are many of them who have done Indy 500s in the officials, both fixed and open setups here the last couple weeks, they all feel this pain all too much, because it is very difficult to get started and restarted here in these Indy cars without spinning tires, driving into somebody, having big checkups, whatever the case may be. Very difficult racetrack.
Well, don't go anywhere. We have more coverage of the Indy 250, and hopefully we will get things sorted out as you are watching VSPEED. We will be back right after this.
With Jonathan Parker, he locks it up at the end of stage 1. Jonathan Parker, our season 5 champion. Bryce Shoemaker is going to take the victory, 128 laps without a pit stop.
Donnie Kite's gonna get through it all and score his first career win. Saturday Night Racing League and throwback at Charlotte goes to Josh Adams.
Back here live in Indianapolis, and it's the first ever VSPEED 250, the Indy 250. Lap 16, we're going back green. And Justin Michael, loving what he sees right now. He's had clean air pretty much 100% of the time here tonight. One contest on the top spot with Chris Simard. But we're back green and racing. Let's see if we can finally get some green flag runs going in here in a 33-car field.
Here we are, another challenge for the lead up front. This time he's got some help on the high side. Simard shows the outside one more time. Still cannot quite get clear into turn number 3. Down the short chute, should fall back in line here through turns 3 and 4. Yes, he does. Another challenge thwarted off by Justin Michael.
What was the Weingartner, I believe, was that pulled that off there in the last lap last year, taking it to the outside. But there was a lot of factors. A very cool track temperature there a year ago. It had rained prior to this, and this year, kind of the same weather that we had in real life. It's very hot, very slick, 121 degrees on the track.
Yeah, that's about the temperature of a good blue rare steak on the racetrack here. So definitely warm out here at Indianapolis, and drivers are fighting it. These cars have been tight, as you guys can tell. They're at home with how much they struggle to get off the corner. Back throughout the field, drivers farther back in dirty air, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse for them.
On board here with Chris Simard, he made that attempt at the lead. but you sit back in dirty air. You have to really set up the corner for the next pass. He'll get the draft down the back straightaway. He'll slowly progress towards that leader. You can see a little bit of a dragon's tail already forming here as these guys dip to the inside, but spread out here amongst the top 5 already. Go back here to 10th place. And there's a battle just in front there in 9th spot with Sean Langton trying to get around Adam Baker.
The co-owner of VSPEED, Adam Baker, having a great showing here in the 8th position. Trying to follow that dragon's tail down the front stretch. Right in front of Sean Langton. Protects the bottom. And, nothing doing there for the 8th position.
And we do have driver cams here tonight. There's Adam Baker riding on board with him in the number 7, but heavy draft coming down the backstretch. A look to the outside with Seth Hatchell. Baker protects the bottom, but through 3, looks like Baker's going to lose a spot as Seth Hatchell will go around. Actually, Seth Hatchell, Sean Langton. I apologize for that. We actually had Hatchell just in front of that in the number 8, but Baker making his comeback here to the racing elements, and he's been on a bit of a hiatus, is now back to the outside. That will be Langton go around.
Yeah, Baker got really tight, had to lift out of the gas, gave Langton the run out of the corner, and he's going to gap him by 3, 4, 5, make it 10 car lengths as we head down the backstretch. One blip of the throttle here in a spot where the other driver doesn't expect it, and you will lose a boatload of times if you throw an anchor. With how fast these cars are going, your leader right now 216 miles an hour and gaining to about 225 into turn number 1. That's just how fast these cars are and how quickly these things happen.
Car off the pace there. I believe that is Jordan Neese actually on pit road now. We've got Kyle Adams, Riley Laverne at the tail end here in this green and white machine in 30th position. He lost the draft. He has no air to pull up on the rest of this field. Then you have a battle here. You have Michael Wingo and the number 25. Remember, he was caught up in an incident earlier. And just behind that, I think that's Kyle Adams, 2 laps down. There is RaceMRL.com's machine. And we've got a variety of different talent levels, different iRatings, different guys with different experiences. But what we haven't talked about is the car itself and how that factors in, because everybody here is part of some form of stock car racing or another. There's not really an open wheel series on VSPEED outside of what we're doing here tonight.
Yeah, VSRL at one point had an open wheel series, so those guys might have a bit of a leg up on the competition, but they haven't had their IndyCar series since the infamous iRacing IndyCar contract debacle of a few years ago. So since then, no VSPEED IndyCar series as far as I'm aware. So this is definitely going to be new territory for a lot of these drivers. But I think now we've had about 10 laps or so under green, I think drivers are now really starting to figure out what is it going to do on the long run, how's it going to wear the tires, where's the heat building, what's the fuel mileage look like, how do I manage runs, as we've seen clean and green here for the last 10 laps. And having some good racing, a lot of battles throughout the field as drivers just now starting to pick off their fast laps today.
There's Justin Ritchie currently running in the 14th position, has Rob Rader for Racing Revolution just ahead of him. Chapman Environmental Services plastered all over that car, as we would assume. And he is currently catching up to Matt Robinson. And just a few nights ago here on VSPEED, we saw the All-Star event for the Cup Series. Matt Robinson won his way in heat number 2. And the closest finish, and Morgan, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it was the closest finish in VSPEED history, 0.0003. So 10,000ths of a second separating Dakota Floyd and Matt Robinson at the line. And Robinson won his way in to the main event for the All-Star Challenge.
I guess I have work to do. I got to get back in the race car as someone took my crown. I'm not a fan of that, but glad to see great finishes here on VSPEED. But I'll have to get back in the car here, that 51 VSPEED machine, and take over the race with Brad. How about that?
Well, I can say there's nothing better than seeing guys that are associated with the broadcast booth getting out on the racetrack. And speaking of which, Adam Baker running in the 9th position. He has Aaron Smith tiptoeing his way closer. Last time by 0.02 of a second faster for the number 70 on the number 7. And the fastest car on the racetrack, of course, is in clean air right now. That's Justin Michael. He is pulling away from Chris Simard. Nick Stein back in 3rd. Thomas Stokes, Alex Forget, Berube, the top 5 here from Indy.
First driver here on the new tires is Philip Brewer back in 19. So new tires not really being much of an advantage at this point in the race, but he does have a little bit more fuel than the drivers in front of him. So that is something to keep an eye on, as he can go about 4 laps more on fuel. First driver to pit under that last caution, right behind him, Connor Horn in 20th. Has about 15 laps less, or more fuel in the tank, sorry, than all the drivers in front of him. So he should be able to go a fair ways further, and that might help him make it to the end of this race.
Back on board here with the 20 of Connor Horn. Of course, driver cameras and the live view. You can see very slanted back. You try to get as much immersion as you can. This car low to the ground. Maybe with the different wheels that some drivers have too. A lot of these wheelbases can interchange. You can change over from a stock car wheel with a, that nice firm 13.5, and then you can go to a nice flat wheel with an open bottom and a lot of buttons. That's really what it takes for this particular racing, is you got to have a lot of buttons for on-the-fly adjustments, and you can see it here with Connor Horn as he goes into turn 3.
We talked about it earlier. You got your brake bias, front ARB, rear ARB. You got your fuel map, as well as your weight jacker. So that's 5 different adjustments that you're going to have to make on the fly at some point in this race. And you're going to want to have buttons for all of those. Otherwise, you're reaching over for your keyboard, you're trying to use your mouse, and that is less than ideal when you're traveling at a comfortable 200 plus 220 at times mile an hour here on these 90-degree bank corners. Very difficult to do anything besides focus on the race in front of you.
And there's Nick Alves in the number 24, another Racing Revolution driver, currently running in 17th position as he is starting to catch up to the back of Caleb Weekly on board here with the 24. Some drivers that you're familiar with. You raced over at Racing Revolution, but it was also in a truck series that maybe a little bit different than what we're currently on right now. But you know Indy better than most. It's one of those racetracks that you really have to pace yourself and race the car. You start racing the guys around you, you can get in trouble quickly.
Yeah, racing is ambitious. Is an ambitious word for what I was doing over at Racing Revolution. I was trying to race, but it wasn't going particularly well. But you're right, Indianapolis is, in stock cars, we equate it to kind of the Darlington, where you have to race the racetrack. Don't worry about the other guys, just try and bring the thing home in one piece. Indy's a lot like that as well. We're at the point in the race now, no stages, there's no artificial breaks. It is from the start to the finish. You don't know what's going to happen in the middle. We're logging laps right now. We are at the point in this race where you just got to keep this thing on the black stuff. Don't hit the wall, don't wreck the car, stay in touch with the drivers in front of you, and don't screw up the pit strategy. We're a lot of drivers here probably saving fuel, especially further back in the field. They got it in fuel map 5. Oh, caution's out on the racetrack, actually. Michael Call, I believe. Yes, he is in the outside wall.
And he was stuck on that outside wall, had to tow it back to pit road, and that's going to cost him some time. But the 89 of Michael Call now in 29th position and a lap down after having a tow to the pit lane. And Jeff Wright and a few others that just came in for pit stops. I think Jeff Wright's going to be okay. No, I think these drivers are just now going through turn 2. So Jeff Wright might have lost a lap.
He did lose a lap. The good news, though, every driver in the field should be hitting pit road right here, because this gets you in a one-stopper to the end. So I would expect every driver to hit pit road for the first time or second time here tonight.
Looking back on the instant replay, there's Jeff Wright peeling it down pit road into turn 4, into the inside of the target machine of Philip Brewer, and there's a wheel hop. It's what happens with these open wheel cars. You can't make contact like that, and he just jumps over the left or right rear of the 44.
Yeah, you saw the 44 get a little bit tight in the corner there. He's trying to dive to the bottom and didn't quite have the grip to make it stick. The 89 tried to give it to him and get back behind him, but you saw the lift right there by the 44, and that's got to be so frustrating for Michael Call. Was was obviously giving that spot up, took the outside to avoid the incident, and Brewer just got tight and had to lift, and all of a sudden there's a car flying through the air and into the outside wall here, and we'll see it much better from the blimp. See right there, 44 has to lift, and as he gets a little tight, missed the bottom, and the car paying the price for it is Michael Call. And everyone is land rushing down pit road right now.
Here we go for pit stops, and this makes complete sense as we're about 30 laps on the stint for most of these cars. You were talking about that window of opportunity to come down pit road. We've had a few that brought it in and topped off, but you got to be careful in these pit stalls as well. It's very easy to slide through that box. You saw Chris Simard have to back it up here, and he's going to lose some positions because of that. And a change for the lead. Looks like Thomas Stokes, actually, Chad Klinger stays out. He has 18 laps on this stint, but Thomas Stokes is going to come out second ahead of Justin Michael.
And the big loser here on this stop was Christian Peterson, who missed the box quite a bit, and he's going to fall back a lot of positions. He's back now 23 from where he started, back in the 26th position. So if I had $1 for every time I missed a pit box in an Indy car, oh man, I wouldn't have to work at VSPEED anymore, because I missed those pit boxes a lot. This was my Indy car was the car that brought me into league racing and eventually brought me over to VSPEED. So I have a fond place in my heart for these lightweight monsters at Indianapolis.
There's Jeff Wright getting the wave around here on this next caution, and cause of the caution there with the 44 getting into the inside of, I'm drawing a blank here, it was, I believe,
Michael Call,
yes, in the 89. So a couple cars off the racetrack here with Sean Mullahan and Jordan Neese. They will take an early exit with 33rd and 34th positions. Still 32 cars on the service right now, and about 29 of those on the lead lap as Jeff Wright takes his wave around. 33 laps in, will go back green on lap 34.
And from here, we talked about fuel a little bit just a second ago. If we can go between 30 and 36 on fuel, that's going to put us right around 60 to 70, somewhere in there is where we're going to end up at the end of this fuel run, depending how well you can save. And that puts us right on the edge of making it to the end of this race. So drivers are going to have to be crafty with their fuel mileage. They're going to be crafty with the strategy. Do you want to lead is a question. And I don't know if how Chad Klinger feels about that right now. Track position's important, but so is the fuel in the tank.
Absolutely. And when you look at these drivers that are going to try to lead this race, clean air is beneficial to your overall race pace. You saw it there with Justin Michael in that first third of this event, but now it's a matter of fuel strategy, and it's a different element. When everyone was on kind of the even playing field, you could kind of afford to be up front and burn that fuel off. Now it's a matter of how much can I save, and being up front makes it very difficult, especially for the 09.
Yeah, fuel map 5 is a no-go when you are in the lead, but if you're running in 5th, for example, fuel map 5, that could be possible to save a lot of fuel on this run, but we're going to find out here. As the green flag is in the air and about to go waving here for the VSPEED Indy 250. Oh, we're wrecking again in the back. Oh, big crash. Nick Alves involved.
Holy
Max
cow.
Costin as well.
The car went up over its lid there, and I'm not sure who that was, but they flew high. I think it was Riley Laverne. Somebody went way up in the air.
I saw Nick Alves barrel roll from the entry of pit road all the way down to the scoring pylon. We got a lot of drivers with some big issues here. Nick Stein's one of them. I think Brian Hennings has some major damage as well. Yeah, watch that green car, kind of middle of your screen. Another big checkup here. Driver's turning to the outside wall, and there goes the 24. Wow. And the halo is doing a lot of work there. And Riley Laverne somehow made it through that with, he did lose the nose piece with a lot better damage than he should have. That thing should have been destroyed, but It's not all that bad for him here. Caleb Gilbert, though, is crab walking this thing around the racetrack. Not going to be able to make it back to pit road. Oh, he went underneath Nick Alves. Oh, my goodness.
Nick Alves continued to break dance down that front straightaway after the fact. That fell apart quickly here. I don't even know what to say. It's just iRacing physics sometimes does some comedic things, and for Nick Alves, he's probably not happy about it because it caused more damage to this car than it probably would have received outside of that. But you can see the nose cone completely missing from this machine. Quite a few fast repairs were burned up early here, but thankfully for the 24, he did not have to use that at the beginning of this race, and now he will have to use it. This car is pretty much destroyed.
Yeah, the only issue is that he had to tow, so now he's going to go laps down, waiting on the tow truck driver. So unfortunately, that is going to cost him. He's now 2 down. Alves, Gilbert, Kyle Adams, Michael Call, as well as Michael Wingo, all 2 laps down here in this race. So that is going to cost them dearly for their chance to win here. Really unfortunate for a couple drivers who are just minding their own business and got caught up on another restart issue here. And we don't see this a lot with stock cars just because of how we have places to go, but not the case in IndyCar.
Don't go anywhere. We got more coverage to continue. We put together a pretty good stint there of green flag running. Hopefully we can get back to that as you are watching the first ever Indy 500 presented by VSPEED. Don't go anywhere. We have more coverage presented by Keo and RaceMRL.com right after this.
The victory, 128 laps without a pit stop.
Donnie Kite's gonna get through it all and score his first career win. Saturday Night Racing League and throwback at Charlotte goes to Josh Adams.
Racing isn't easy.
Back here live for the Indy 250, as you can see here on the top of your screen, and full race coverage all the way through as we go back green on lap 38. Put that vertical ticker back on the left-hand side of your screen. And it's Chad Klinger leading them into turn 1. Clean air for the 09. Thomas Stokes, Justin Michael, who's led the vast majority of this first third of this race. And Morgan, we were having this conversation as we see a battle for the lead. You would have been in fuel save mode. I think Chad Klinger might agree. He's given up the lead pretty easy here.
Well, Chad Klinger also has about 18 more laps on his tires. 18 laps less in the tank than everybody else, as he did not pit on that caution, a couple cautions ago here. So he really has to save, or else he's probably not going to be able to even one-stop this race like a lot of the field can. Oh, we got drivers hitting the wall in the back of the field here. Craziness here. It was almost 3 wide into turn number 1. Not what you want to see. I think Max Cost was the catalyst for that one.
Contact with the wall for Philip Brewer.
See that as well. We got drivers having some issues out here today. Off of turn 2, I think Caleb Weekly might have got a little bit tight. We're going to pass for 4th, Chris Samard by Alex Forget Berube. John Langton picture in 6th as well.
Looking back on that replay there with Caleb Weekly, got a little bit tight, slid up the racetrack into the 44. Minor damage maybe for both those cars, especially for Brewer as he brushed the wall. Got a car coming down pit road now this time, and it's Michael Wingo with a black flag. No, that is actually Kyle Adams following him into pit road, finding his stall in the number 42, 2 laps down here.
Kyle Adams had a rough race. Remember earlier he was spinning on his lid down the front stretch. That is not how you want your Indy 250 to go here. But sometimes that's just the way that it is.
And on board here with Seth Hatchell as he approaches a pass opportunity on Steve Tucker in 7th position. Harpoon Designs machine. You see Hatchell back that up, and I had actually sent out a message there pre-race to talk a little bit about how this car was different on the runs. And with my limited experience in this car, the one thing that I did pick up on is you can lift out of the throttle, set up your turns, and draft back up to that car in front of you. You don't necessarily give up that position or give up that opportunity. You just got to plan it accordingly for when you want to actually pass.
Definitely, and with that as well, you don't want to heat up those front tires too bad. Once you get those tires hot, you can't get them cooled down. You're just going too fast, even though they're obviously in the air because they're open wheels. Very difficult to get those front tires to cool down here. But you're absolutely right. You can back these corners up a long way, roll the center, and get back to throttle early, and be able to draft right back up to that guy's back bumper, or spoiler, whatever you want to call it here, and not lose too much time. It's just when you're repetitively trying to do it, it can cause some temperature issues in those tires.
This is Justin Ritchie looking for a spot. There's actually a pass going on in front of him there as Rob Rader got around Matt Robinson in the number 1. But just ahead of Justin Ritchie, it's the fan favorite over at Racing Revolution. That's not the actual onboard. That is not Jeremy Burns. Here's the actual onboard with him right now.
There he is. Looks like he got moved out from the dorm. He's residing currently in the 14th position. Here trying to get up to the front. This is about where he's run all day. He was caught up in one of those restart melees earlier in the race and trying to claw his way back, as is Dakota Floyd, up a few spots in front of him, right behind him actually. Right behind him and Ritchie is Dakota Floyd. They're all trying to get it back up to the front after they got caught up in a few restart issues.
Connor Horn going around on the inside there of Rob Rader. He'll get up to the 12th position. But closest battle on the racetrack right now is back here with Jeff Wright. They're going side by side for around 20th position. Car down pit road. That's Logan Watering hitting the pit stall. And it's Jeff Wright trying to get around Riley Laverne on the inside in 1.
Oh, big loose moment there for Jeff Wright. He was able to save that without clipping Mr. Riley Laverne there, and that was just about another caution. Great job by Jeff Wright, who, remember, got bit on the pit sequence. He hit pit road, and not even a lap later, Michael Call and Philip Brewer had their incident down in turn number 1, cost a lap to the 48 machine. He is now in 23rd, trying to claw back, as he was running up near the top 10 earlier in this race, but gonna have a long way to get there, especially for staying green. Oh, big block behind him. I think that's Alves trying to get around Call. That would be the first driver 2 laps down in this race.
Yeah, that was Nick Alves in the number 24, 29th position right now. These cars 2 laps down. Logan Watering 1 lap down after that pit stop, and looks like a speeding penalty or maybe unsafe pit exit there for Watering and as he will get the black flag and have to come back around the racetrack, back down pit road. I believe it is a hold penalty for the 93 on an unsafe pit exit, but speeding, I think, is just a pass-through. It's a kind of a weird area there for iRacing.
Definitely, and this is one of the easiest pit roads to speed on, although these cars do have pit limiters, so probably just had a bit of an issue getting the pit limiter on, or another potential penalty you can get here is on pit exit down in turns 1 and 2. There's no grass down in the center of the corner. You can go too far to the right, and cross over the white line. That will be a penalty, like an off track, and that'll invalidate your exit, meaning you have to come back down and serve a penalty. So that's possibly what happened here to Logan. Unfortunately, though, he had to pit because of damage, so his day is just going from bad to worse.
Matt Robinson getting passed by Justin Ritchie. That was for the 14th position. An overtake down the front straightaway. And Justin Ritchie gets another spot here, now up 2 from where he began this race, clawing his way back towards the top 10. Adam Baker hanging on to the tail end of that. And there's Aaron Smith in the number 70. And when we were talking to some of these drivers in the pre-race, you remember this is the invitational winner in the number 70 machine. I don't think that he's doing quite as well in this open wheel stock car or open wheel car, but you got to go back to how he approaches these races. He's probably pacing himself right now.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure or displeasure, if you're one of the competitors against Aaron Smith, of racing with this guy, and yeah, you don't typically see him early in the race in these bright yellow cars, and they're always bright yellow. But you will see him in the final 25% of this race, and you can almost guarantee that. We're still 25 laps away, as we haven't even hit halfway yet in this race from kind of that window when he wakes up, and it could be strategy, could be saving a lot of fuel right now. Regardless, he's hanging out in 9th spot. Can still see the leader. This day is not over by any stretch for anyone in the top 15 or 20 here.
Last time by, cleanest air, fastest lap. Thomas Stokes pulls away a little bit here in the number 11. Holding on to that top position, and just behind is Chad Klinger, who has a little bit older tires. You said 18 laps older. That holds true now as we go around for the halfway mark. Justin Michael, who led the vast majority of the beginning of this race. The first third goes to Justin Michael with 31 laps led. You have Chris Simard behind him. He made a few stabs at the lead, started on the front row, just could never complete the pass on the outside. And then Alex Forget Berube just behind.
Big crash.
Big crash with Chad Klinger. No, that's not Klinger. It's
Nick Stein.
Stein.
Right as Chad Klinger hit pit road, Nick Stein loose off of turn 4 and annihilated the inside wall. That is a tough break for Chad Klinger. Same thing that happened to Jeff Wright. Seconds after he hits the pit lane, another driver with misfortunes on the front stretch. We'll see it here. I think he was tight off of 4, hit the wall and drove it down into the inside wall, but here we will confirm.
Yep.
Exactly what happened.
Tried to lock it up there. Everybody able to avoid it, so a single car incident, but a hard impact with the inside wall coming out of turn 4, and Nick Stein will tow it to pit road. He was running in around the 16th position there where that happened.
Yeah, I'll tell you what this does is this puts us in kind of a weird fuel spot. Is we were on the edge of making it on one stop. Now it's going to be close. If you pit here, you can for sure one stop it. If you keep going and you tempt it a little bit, you could probably make it a little bit easier on yourself, and it's gonna be interesting here to the end. Do you pit here and play it safe, or do you gamble and stay out, try and gain some track position? I don't know. I'd be pitting if I was these drivers. I want to take the sure thing, but the drivers have been bit by that before.
Well, and then you have another caution that could completely turn this race on its head, but it looks like Thomas Stokes is committed to pit road here as he goes below that white line. He'll speed up, pull ahead of everybody, and down pit road we go for pretty much the entire field.
Looks like they all heard me up here. I see one driver, I think that's Jeff Wright, staying out. Adam Baker as well. Caleb Weekly going to keep it on the racetrack. But most of these drivers hitting pit road here. One driver just hit the inside wall. That was Logan Water.
So Adam Baker going to stay out with a few others here on this stint. Caleb Weekly, Jeff Wright, also out there on the racetrack. Chad Klinger did not go a lap down here, so he'll be in the 4th position. He got really lucky with the way that caution fell. Unlike Jeff Wright, who was a little bit deeper in the field when he came down pit road. Some of these drivers up towards the front, it buys you enough time at this 2.5-mile oval that you will not go a lap down. That pace car came out on the racetrack at just the right time to keep Klinger on the lead lap here, as Adam Baker will be the command car. Thomas Stokes the first on 4 fresh ones, and there's Justin Michael, Chris Simard, Alex Forget, Berube in the background. A lot of your top 5 just hanging on to the top 10 here, Morgan.
Yeah, we had 4 drivers stay on the racetrack. Chad Klinger, one of those as well, as you mentioned, the other 3, Baker, Weekly, and Wright. And then your drivers led a bunch of laps here today. Thomas Stokes, Justin Michael have led most of this race. They're hanging around 5th and 6th. And yeah, this is just one of those classic track position kind of races. You have to stay relevant in this race, up in the top 15. If you fall too much farther behind there, it's going to be very difficult to make things up under green and be able to flip flip strategies when cautions come out. When you get buried too deep in the field, you just can't seem to leapfrog people like you can when you're running maybe 12th. Just kind of the way Indianapolis works in these cars is it's hard to pass, but a lot of fun to drive.
So the 1 to go signal here for Adam Baker. He will be the command car for the first time today. And since we're past the halfway point, Morgan, I didn't disclose this, but we do have a graphic here tonight. So I think for this next restart, we should hear the sights and sounds of what Indianapolis has to offer. And with these V6 engines thundering around Indianapolis, I think it's time that we get loud, presented by Firestorm Racing and another sponsor over there at Saturday Night Racing League. Huge shout out to that graphic and everything that they've put together over there at Saturday Night Racing. But we're going to do some copyright infringement and pull it over here, especially when we have a VSPEED car leading the pack. I think it's a prime time to do so.
Not just a VSPEED car, but co-owner of VSPEED, Adam Baker, here on the front row, making his return to the racetrack. Let's get loud, folks.
All right, here we go on lap 54. Find those volume knobs at remote control wherever those children may have hit it. And let's get loud, presented by Firestorm Racing.
Smith involved.
Gonna stay green.
They spun onto pit road with contact now is Forget. Sorry to put get loud here, but favor for the race, out of the race.
caution is out now as Chad Klinger, a driver that was up front during the beginning of this second third of the race. Chad Klinger in 25th position. He had just come back out. He had fresh tires. He was kind of on the same stand as the rest of this field, but problems here for the 09.
And much like Aaron Smith, it was the Alex Forget machine who got into the side of him. Couldn't quite save it after that contact from the rear, and to the outside wall it goes. Rear spoiler knocked off of that machine. Shouldn't be too long of a fix. Oh, as he spins again coming to pit road. Might be a bit of a longer fix now. A little more damage to it, but the 09 is not having a good second half of this race.
We'll try to go back here, and I'll find the replay of where the 70 had problems. This goes back to, quite a few laps ago there while we were at the Get Loud segment of this part of the race. And the 70 machine down pit road, he's actually coming back out on the racetrack now with that fast repair. Let's see if we can find out what happened to the number 70.
Once again, apologies to Firestorm Racing for ruining your Get Loud segment, but when you can see a driver shoot down to pit road and hit the inside wall, you gotta say something.
Was that an intentional move there, or was he avoiding something? We're gonna find out right here. On the outside, car cuts off the nose. Yeah, he hops a wheel there. Wow.
You see why I was drawn to it. Yeah, he hit it a ton, and also it's bright yellow. You can't miss it. But what happened here was that green car, that's Forget, got a little bit tight, had to lift, and then he came up across the nose right here, and it was actually the driver behind him. I'm not sure who that was. It was not Alex Forget, but it was that blue car behind Aaron Smith here. They got into the back of him and kind of turned him into the inside wall. There's nothing you can do once these things are out of shape. Looks like Rob Rader. A little bit of net code.
And just trying to limp it to its pit stall here. Cannot get the car going.
It's difficult when both tie rods are snapped off on the front. The thing doesn't really want to roll very well, and the nose cone is dragging underneath the car, and it is just a bad time for the 70. And once again, this puts us in a very interesting fuel window. If you pit here, you're going to be short by about 6 laps. But you don't know when the next caution comes out. We see Caleb Weekly potentially fakes pit road. Not quite yet. Who's going to be the first to pit last? Here in the VSPEED Indy 250. That's usually the driver who wins these things, is the first driver to pit last.
Lana Baker's going to stay out, and I think track position weighing on the minds of these drivers. What do you say we pull another driver up here randomly into the broadcast booth? But I'm pushing towards the 7 if you want to bring him up.
Yeah, let's go find Adam Baker. Adam Baker, it's Morgan and Bradley up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yep,
we got you.
Yeah, you find yourself leading the race that you helped organize here in the VSPEED number 7 machine. You're one of the drivers who has the most laps in the tires, least fuel in the tank. We're getting close to the pit window. What are you thinking for strategy here on out? What's the plan for the 7 machine?
Well, it's going to be one more stop no matter what. So just going to have to try and stretch it as far as I can. Car feels good. And ran my fastest lap out in clean air like that. So I'm happy. Try and stay up here as long as I can.
Awesome. Anything, Bradley?
I got nothing for you. Good luck, man. Adam, I tell you what, appreciate everything you do here at VSPEED, and hopefully we can put this car in victory lane. Good luck, man.
That would be awesome. Thanks, guys. enjoy the race.
What team are you racing with here, Adam?
All right, yeah, Team VSPEED. Yeah, go Team VSPEED. Excited to watch the show later, boys.
All right, good luck here on this restart.
Here we go to go back green on lap number 60. Adam Baker, the command car. Caleb Weekly, Jeff Wright, Thomas Stokes, Justin Michael, the dominant car for the first third of the race. Green flag back underway. And there's Michael already starting to make a move. Yeah, Thomas Stokes in front of him there on that restart, but couldn't get it done into one.
40 laps to go here. You're going to have to make every move count. Every run, you got to start to take it and do something with it, as we see the 11, Thomas Stokes, dive to the bottom of Jeff Wright here down the backstretch. We got a battle for the lead as well. Caleb Weekly trying to go around the high side. Haven't seen that work quite yet for the lead. And it's not going to go for Caleb Weekly either, as he should fall back here out of turn number 4. Move Thomas Stokes up to the 3rd position.
Have another run here for Caleb Weekly going into turn 1. But now to the inside, here comes Stokes again on those fresher tires, making a difference now for the top 5.
And a one-on-one battle. 20-lap fresher tires are absolutely going to help you every single time. You can push harder on fuel as well. As Adam Baker mentioned, we've got one stop no matter where you are in the field, so you might as well push right now if you've got the extra fuel, because you're going to have to pit anyway. There are battles all throughout this field as we get down to the nitty-gritty here in Indianapolis.
Just behind your 17th place driver, there's Alex Forget on the outside of Max Cost. It's 2x2 down the front straightaway. 3 wide into 1. What a dive there. Who was that? I think that was Connor Horn in the 67 that just made up 4 positions in 1 corner.
Yeah, there was a driver who wisely backed out of that, and that kind of caused a bit of an issue for the other 6 or so of them. I think Chad Klinger was the one who backed out of it, and it allowed Connor Horn to dive to the bottom and to be able to get around these guys. Some of these drivers back here do have some pretty significant damage. I'm looking at Alex Forget right now, the 78, who's missing half of the nose, and that is making that car a very difficult machine to drive. You see he's missing the right side of the nose cone, and he is well off the pace, slowest driver on the racetrack right now by a fairly large margin. And Seth Hatchell, I think, has just gone around.
And minimal damage. It looks like Hatchell might have kept it off the wall here. I don't see anything on that machine, but definitely turned out of turn 1.
I think Dakota Floyd involved in this one as well. It looks like he's got both parts of the nose cone. I think we're all good here for the 8 machine. Another VSPEED car. Teammates with Adam Baker here this evening.
Let's look here going into turn 1. There's a car on the inside. It's a 71 machine. And there's the contact.
Very similar to what we saw with Chad Klinger. He's just got a bit of a touch out of the corner, and around that car goes. And once it's sideways, it's not like a stock car. You can't just swap wheel back and forth to try and get it to drive straight again. You just lock it down through the inside. Hope you don't hit anything too hard.
Christian Peterson moves up the racetrack there, just barely clips, almost got involved there. That was, I believe, Dakota Floyd that you were talking about there. But with the 8 machine, we'll go on to the blimp camera and you'll see this is just a push up the racetrack here for the 71. Down into the left rear, and there's the damage. Minimal, though, for Seth Hatchell. Might be able to repair this car back to a decent state. So we're only 2/3 away into this race and 1/3 left. We'll go back green. This shakes up the fuel even more, because now if you're Adam Baker and a few of these others, you can come down pit road. If the rest of this field stays out, I don't know, Morgan, do you come down this time? This is still a little bit short.
You have to pit here. You gotta pit here. If you're back in the field, you can run fuel map 5 and make it from here. You have to pit here. And it looks like only 2 drivers disagree with me. So I don't know. If you're farther back in the field, you can risk it and not pit. But I think if you're one of the leaders, you pretty much got to bring it down pit road. I see Thomas Stokes, Chris Samard stayed out. But other than that, a lot of drivers, Dakota Floyd, Riley Laverne, Connor Horn, Logan Watern, and Justin Ritchie, who were back in the field. Look at Sean Langton getting off pit road.
Yeah.
Before everyone else.
So Sean Langton beats Adam Baker out of the pits, and it looks like we got about 4 or 5 cars that stayed out this time around. I don't know that it's necessarily that they disagreed with you, but there are only 13 laps on this stint, and if we get a caution, you could go into full save mode. We were talking about, I think it's map 8. I'm trying to get educated here, where you could just absolutely,
caution. Yes.
Yeah, you could just absolutely save. You could clutch, shut this thing off, and pull a miracle out here. But 13 laps on the stint, I think that's stretching it either way.
Well, the only problem is you still have to pit, right? You can't.
Yeah.
You're not going to make it 45 laps on fuel if you can only go 30 to 36. So when that caution came out, was right at 36 laps to go. So it gets you right on the edge. So if you stayed out here, you for sure have to come down, and everyone else might be able to make it. And that's the key word, is might, is we're right on the edge.
Don't go anywhere. More coverage continues of the Indy 250 presented by VSPEED. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have the end of this race uninterrupted for the last 33 or so laps right after this.
Is going to take the victory 128 laps without a pit stop.
Donnie Kite's going to get through it all and score his first career win. Saturday Night Racing League and throwback at Charlotte goes to Josh Adams.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is.
Welcome back here to the Indy 250 as Chris Samard has finally found his way to the top spot. He took several stabs at it in the first 30 laps of this race, but now in the final third, he finds his way up P1 down the backstretch ahead of Thomas Stokes.
Yeah, hard fought to get up to that lead as they are slicing and dicing back in the pack. I'm watching here the 13th position as there are a bunch of cars almost 3 wide here. Caleb Weekly leading this little group, and they are all really trying to get that track position as they might be able to make it to the end. Hard to say, and we're going to find out. This is, as I said at the top of the show, always turns into a fuel mileage race. This one is no different.
And there's an overtake there by your dominant leader of the first third, Justin Michael goes by Caleb Weekly for the 12th position, now already going to work on another car. That's Jeff Wright for Saturday Night Racing League in 11th.
I don't believe Justin Michael in the 87 is saving anything as he just drove by those two cars like they were standing still. He's got another 10 to pass before he gets to Chris Simard. He is leading this race and slowly pulling away from Thomas Stokes in second, and the top four have checked out. Over Riley Laverne in fifth, and Logan Watern has clawed his way back up to the 6th position.
And after Logan Wateren, a late entry here to the VSPEED Indy 250. Started back in 12th position, up to 6th now. He's one of those drivers with a little bit of an elongated stint. He's 12 laps. We have drivers in the top 5 that are 18 laps. You were talking about fuel. I don't think this top 5 can make it to the end of this race, not with this clean air.
No, I would agree with you. I think the first driver who I think has a reasonable shot at making it is Sean Langton back in 7th. 5 laps on the stint, and he currently is laying back from Logan Watern. Adam Baker's in that same boat. He's laying back a little bit further even. He's drafting behind the lap machine of Aaron Smith. Everybody else, I don't know. If you're in front of those guys, I worry that you can make it to the end of the sun.
Yeah, that's assuming this race stays green, but even then, I think they have to come down pit road because this race goes the distance, and these cars, unless you put them in the right mapping, don't save fuel very well. You can clutch, you can shut them off, you can put it in map 8, but even then, you're trying to ask these guys to stretch this race out an additional 18 laps. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, in map 8, it won't work under green. You can only use map 5. Map 8 will blow the motor up if you run it under green. It will be going so slow, just the revs will be way too high. Map 5 is as slow as you can go here under green flag conditions, and even then, that'll only save you maybe 6 laps if you are like aggressively saving in the draft, part throttle, all that stuff is only 6 laps. So these guys are going to have to be perfect with their fuel saving. Everyone up front, with the pace they're running, I just don't see it happening. We're only about 2/10 off of fast times, so it's going to be a fuel mileage race. I just don't know where it's going to come from.
You can see here in this field, very spread out, but look at 220 miles per hour across the start-finish line. A lot of speed, and, you know, the one thing that I wasn't disappointed with actually visiting this venue, Morgan, is the fact that we had 300,000 people at this racetrack. And, you know, NASCAR, stock car racing, the numbers dwindle. But, man, when you come to this place, it is an entirely different atmosphere. It's almost like you time travel in itself. You're talking about the history of 1909 when this track was built, to the fact that they still run open-wheeled cars, and the history, the research, all of the things that bring us IndyCar to this day. In the last lap, we had probably 2 or 3 overtakes for the top 5. Just could not ask for a better day when I was here. And then just recently, you know, even a better race. I know that the race started on time this time around, and the temperatures were very hot. It made for a very interesting race, and it came down to fuel strategy. These guys did a fantastic job, and we're doing a fantastic job now here on lap 74.
Yeah, this race is definitely cleaned up from the start of the show. And a lot of these drivers have now found themselves in great positions to potentially get a great finish here in the first ever VSPEED Indy 250. Connor Horn is exactly the one I was about to talk about. We don't see him on the track very often. He's typically behind the wheel. And right now he's caught up to Dakota Floyd, who is very clearly aggressively fuel saving. And our friend Connor Horn trying to make the pass for the podium position here to get the bottom step of that podium as he looks on to try and get up to the higher steps here, first and second.
He's one of those cars that is on a little bit later of a stint. 17 laps now going around this place, and that would put him about 5 laps shy or so on this fuel strategy. But Connor Horn going to keep thundering around this place. And, you know, maybe the numbers are a little bit skewed. We had a caution there right around the 36 lap to go mark. If you were mindful of that, I don't know. I can tell you confirmed here for the top 3, it's not looking good. 24 laps on the stint. You have Riley Laverne also in the 5th position. It goes back here to Sean Langton, Adam Baker, that are the cars going to make it as long as they're mindful of everything.
Yeah, and even those guys, they're right on the edge. I don't know if can is in the vocabulary right now. I mean, they're trying, but they're still in fairly clean air. I think if you really want to be safe, you got to look back at like a Max Cost in 25th, who is about half a second or so off the pace, who pit on the same lap as Langton and Watern and those guys, or Langton and Baker and those guys who, I mean, they can probably make it because they're saving even more fuel with the draft, but are they too far back if people do start pitting? We are in wide open territory right now for who could win this race. Anyone on the lead lap, I feel like, from first place Chris Simard back to 25th Michael Kost, has a chance, a realm of possibility to win this race. And I think that's what makes these Indy races so exciting, is you just have no idea where it's going to come from.
Riding on board here with Jeff Wright, one of the drivers kind of mid-pack in this strategy, and he has Justin Ritchie in the 55, Caleb Weekly ahead of him. There's Caleb Weekly going around Justin Ritchie for the 11th spot. Ritchie seems to be in fuel save mode. He's 19 laps on this stint, and now running in 12th position.
He's one of those drivers who stayed out on that last caution, so he's a little bit behind the 8 ball, as they say, as some car just 71 really caught the wall off of turn 4 in the back of the frame. Yeah, Ritchie has 6 laps less fuel in the tank than everybody else does. Caleb Weekly in front of him and Jeff Wright behind him, so he's got to be hoping. Actually, I don't know what he's hoping for at this point in time. It's a difficult place for strategy. Oh, Jeff Wright's in the wall. Jeff Wright just crashed off of turn 2.
He's able to save it and keep it off of anybody else around him, but he's definitely got damage, and he is not steering that car anymore. It is along for the ride for the 48 of Jeff Wright. And if anybody thought this guy wasn't human, here's a mistake documented on lap 80.
Yeah, he's one of the only drivers I've seen today who's really had this thing trimmed out on the loose side. And we kind of saw it on the onboard previously. He's really wiggling the steering wheel here, and you see it right there off of 1, but you're just going to see this thing snap around here. Right there, just a wiggle, and he can't quite save it. Rips off the tire and breaks a tie rod, and unfortunately that is going to end his chance of getting the win here with 20 laps to go in the inaugural VSPEED Indy 250.
And the top 4 have pulled away from Chris Simard back to Connor Horn. Then you have a full 4, almost 5 seconds back to Riley Laverne. Logan Watern in the 6th position. There's a car in between these two. I believe that's Nick Alves in the 24. Trying to get one of his 2 laps down back here on board with the 24.
Jeff Wright back out on the racetrack. He's going to blend in 1 lap down, the only driver 1 lap down in this race to this point. So right over with Nick Alves, as you mentioned, 2 down, 26th position, first driver 2 laps down. Just riding here. This is how I felt a lot of the time in Racing Revolution, was damaged car, couple laps down, just chilling, hoping to finish the race. And hopefully he can do a better job than I did at finishing. Oh, another driver crashes. I think that again is Dylan Picklesheimer. It is. Caution is out, and that is the miracle a lot of these drivers were hoping for, as a hard crash off of turn 4.
And that puts Dylan Picklesheimer, who had already burned a fast repair to be out here on the racetrack for a second time, behind the pit wall. He is done for the day. 27 car heavily damaged. Back on our VSPEED instant replay to figure out what happened to this Bass Pro Shops 27 Delara, and it hits the outside again. That's what happened to another driver.
That's a carbon copy of what happened to him on lap 1. Exactly the same thing in exactly the same place. He got tight off the corner, hit the outside wall, and it drove down to the inside and just annihilated both sides of this machine. And you're right, he's going to finish 28th unfortunately for here, and yeah, that's just nothing you can do.
Who was
really.
that that snuck through that there? Was that Jeff Wright?
Could have been Jeff Wright. I also saw Michael Call get very close.
There was
That
somebody
sliding.
that just barely snuck through that. We're going to back this up one more time, see if we can find an angle. I don't know who that was.
Is that Max Cost?
Yes, it was.
Was Max
We found
Cost?
it.
Yes, it was.
Well, let's ride on board here with Max Cost. He's going to have a face full of this car width to the wall.
It's about as close as you can get to that outside wall without hurting the car. So great job by Max being able to avoid that. As a lot of drivers on pit road, but not every driver on pit road.
Yep, it's the mixed strategies now for a lot of these cars, and you're going to have fresh tires versus old and full tanks. So much going on here. I think now with this caution, we might be able to save enough for those guys that pitted with about 36 to go. That is feasible, but for the rest of this field, like Chris Simard, who finally found his way to the lead, this is coming down pit road and finding yourself in a similar situation to what you had at the beginning half of this race, traffic.
Absolutely, and now there's really two races within the race. There's the race for the lead with these drivers with 19 laps on this run. Langton, Baker, Rader, Michael, Tucker, your top five. Basically everyone through Brian Henning's intent is on that strategy. And then it's the other race in this race, and that's Logan Water and Chris Smart, Connor Horn, Dakota Floyd. The drivers who just pit, and now they can for sure make it to the end. There's no question, no doubts. They can make it. They can drive through this field at full force. The other guys still have saving to do because they might have been able to make it before. If you were aggressively saving previously, you're probably okay. Someone like maybe a Brian Hennings, a Seth Hatchell, Jeremy Burns, Chad Klinger even, probably with the draft could make it. The guys in front of them, Sean Langton, now with the clean air, this is going to be precarious for the 31, as well as Adam Baker and Rob Rader. So, like I've been saying for the last 20 laps, it's definitely not over, and the strategy is wide open right now.
Let's get a little insight here. We're going to pull up the 31 of Sean Langton. You got a copy with us up in the VSPEED booth.
Hey, guys.
Well, Sean, I know you're kind of staying locked in here. Sorry to interrupt you, but you find yourself in the lead. It's a little bit weird of a stint. We still have about 15 to go when we go back green, but the 31 car is in clean air. What does it take here to get this Indy 250 in victory lane?
Yeah, my strategy was that for that stint to go green, I was saving good fuel. I was good for the race. I had plenty of fuel, so I was hoping that it would go green, but here we are. This is the choice I made, so let's hope this, we haven't had any clean air on the front wing so far, so we'll see how this works out.
Well, I can tell you this, from everybody we've seen up front so far, it looks like it's much more enjoyable when you have no one in front of you. So hopefully this car handles well, and maybe things will fall into your favor. Anybody want to shout out real quick before we put you back?
Yeah, just thanks to my teammates. Thanks to you guys for putting this on. I really appreciate it. And, say hi to my parents. They're watching.
Sean Langton going to restart as the command car for this single file restart. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, here we go, Morgan. This is down to the end of this race, and the inaugural VSPEED Indy 250. It's going to be 15 laps to go with Langton, Baker, Rader, Michael, and Tucker, the top five. Green flag is out. We're back underway. No checkups in the back of the field. Big jump here for Langton in a one.
Easily clear. Adam Baker, not a great start as Rob Rader all over the back bumper. Rear spoiler, whatever you want to call it. Still in stock car mode here as got a battle for third. Justin Michael trying to get around Rob Rader. Going to go to the high side. Hasn't really worked for anyone today. Doesn't look like it's going to work for the 87 either.
Well, you start to see that dragon tail form there on the backstretch. These guys using every inch they can. You're going to see it again down the front stretch as they come out of turn 4, Langton to the bottom, weaves back to the outside wall. Will he do it one more time? He will not. Here comes Adam Baker for the lead.
That VSPEED number 7 machine is laying back just a little bit. He's got that draft, so if he was right on the fuel number, this is still helping him. Langton said he was good to go to the end of the race,
Caution's
but that
out.
was caution is out. If it stayed green here, where is the caution? I don't see anyone.
Max Cost.
Oh, and Matt Robinson. There's a bunch of drivers involved. Is that Jeff Wright again? It is Jeff Wright. Looking a lot like Jimmy Johnson right there.
It's going into turn 1 where this happens. You see the 3 wide in front of him. Ah, right there. Max Cost gets turned. Oh, Jeff Wright jumps over a machine. I think that's Nick Alves.
Yeah, we had Jeff
That's
Duke
the
out
one.
here. Went over the top of Matt Robinson. Little airborne. That might have won high jump. We've seen that incident a number of times, though, in turn 1. That's how high that car got. My goodness. We've had that happen a lot in turn 1, where somebody gets tight, has to lift. The drivers behind them don't necessarily lift forward, and all of a sudden you've got a couple drivers headed to the outside wall at a fast rate of speed that you just can't do anything with. Yeah, that's just the hazard of Indianapolis.
The Halo's doing work again here. John Langton going to hold on to the lead. 23 laps on this stint for most of the top 10. In fact, all of the top 10, as Brian Hennings is up to the 10th position. Haven't mentioned his name yet tonight. He started back in the 20th position. The 74 now finds his way up into the top half of the field after starting back in 20th spot. And you've got Seth Hatchell, Jeremy Burns, and flip-flops on the field here. Single file restarts, they make it rather difficult, but if you time it just right into turn 1, we've got plenty of laps left to do it.
And I have to mention as well, no green-white checkers here tonight, so we will go to lap 100 and we'll go no further, which makes fuel a little bit easier to figure out, which means you have even more of a limited window to get to the end. There are going to be no late race overtime green-white checkers to be able to pull yourself back up through the field if you catch a lucky break in that situation. So every run you get from here on out has to be taken. Every move you can make has to be made, because you're probably not going to get that chance again, especially if we have more cautions. But even if we go green, you have to make every moment count here the rest of the way.
And every moment there for Sean Langton, the more time to think about this, you overanalyze things. As a driver, the psyche to put yourself in this situation, you dream about being in this spot, but you also know that it can be taken away from you in just a blink of an eye. And if you're rehearsing this in your head from second on back right now, as Adam Baker, Rob Rader, Justin Michael, who led a lot of laps, you're already thinking what happened the first half of this race as compared to where we are now. The weather hasn't changed much, but it has come down on track temperature, as does Indy. Track temperature from 127 down to 114, and that might make it a little bit easier for those outside last lap passes into turn 3.
Yeah, it'll definitely make these things drive a lot better. You won't be nearly as tight when you enter the corner, so you probably could roll a little bit more speed, maybe a mile an hour or 2 faster into turn 3 to try and make that move. But you better not be wrong, because if you hit that outside wall, that's day over at this stage of the game with only 10 laps to go. And we're shaping up to have a phenomenal ending to what has been a great race overall. And again, got to thank everyone who's helped make this VSPEED Indy 250 happen. We've had 10 cautions. Hopefully this is the last one. But Bradley, why don't you go ahead and shout out our great sponsors that have helped put this thing together.
Well, shout out to racemrl.com and helping bring this coverage to you. Keo by Prolivio. We also have Juicy Spider. If you like our graphics, you can check them out on X at Juicy Spider Studios. And everybody that helped put this on, Race Control with our ever so faithful Benjamin Richards, and he's done a fantastic job. Morgan, I'd like to thank you for being up here in the booth. And then, you know, ultimately, the guy that flies under the radar, he's flying slightly under the radar right now in second position, Adam Baker, founder of VSPEED, and now the co-owner. Is just fantastic to put all of these different leagues out here on the racetrack. And hopefully, as you said, that was the last caution. We can finish this thing under green. It's been a fantastic race out here. And Morgan, again, thank you for coming up.
You bet. Got to give a quick shout out to all the drivers and everyone watching at home. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the notification icon, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, because you're not going to want to miss this or any other event that we have on VSPEED going forward.
Well, green flag is back out. The last 10 laps here of the Indy 250 as Sean Langton will take it into turn 1 with a big jump over Adam Baker. Here comes Rob Rader on the back bumper of the 7.
Rader tries to go low. Now he goes to the top side, trying to fake out Adam Baker here. Not able to do it. I think we have another caution on the racetrack. Yes, we do.
We do. It's Max
Samard's in
around.
it. Samard's in it as well.
Samard heavily broken here.
That's a tough break for a driver who spent so much of this race up in the top 3. That orange, purple, and yellow machine. See him on pit road, missing the left front entirely. Oh, that's Samard on the outside, and not sure who he was racing with, but he had contact with the wall, then got some big help, and there's actually really 2 different incidents. Oh, big contacts. Wow. Was that
the one?
Forget?
No, that was
Forget, or as Riley Laverne.
I'm not sure who that was.
Yeah, I think that's Riley Laverne, who just got put in the fence in a big way.
That was just ahead of Riley Laverne.
Oh, it must be Alex Forget. Yeah. Forget has had a tough night. I think he's been involved in 4 or 5 of these, and somehow that car is still kicking, but it might not be after this one, as he took a nasty lick. Just thinks he's out of it, and boom. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. That was a physics-defying accident right there.
So we can get a better camera on this.
He does a great job to miss the first one. See it right there, is able to spin around that one. All of a sudden, here comes that damaged machine and from the infield grass, and oh yeah, up in the wall and phasing through solid objects is the right front tire.
Gotta love iRacing physics sometimes.
Well, also when you're going 220 miles an hour, it's a little hard to figure out what's going to happen, because not too many vehicles have survived those kind of impacts and look to tell the tale. So yeah, that was a big hit, and that's one of those ones where you're really glad that we're in a sim and we're not in real life, because there have been some massive impacts today.
Honor Horn had to come down pit road and top off with fuel to make it to the end of this race. Michael Call racing back around to get back on the lead lap, or get at least one of those laps back. Justin Ritchie also catching up to the tail end of this field. And it's Sean Langton, Adam Baker, Rob Rader. Then you have Justin Michael, Steve Tucker, the top 5. And these guys that are second place on back, really hoping this race stays green. When we go back green, it might just hand it, if we have another caution, to Sean Langton.
Yeah, we're getting to the point now where if we have another caution after this next lap, then we're probably ending under caution here. We might have a 1-lap shootout, but it'd be tight, and we're at the point now where you've also, if you've done any kind of fuel saving on this run, if you're the top 10, you're good to go. You can make it from here, because you've already had 3 cautions at 2 laps apiece, basically to kind of buffer you, and you were right on the edge. So should be able to make it to the end from here for everyone up in the top 10, and definitely everyone from 11th on back who's on the lead lap here all the way back to Justin Ritchie in 20th. So now it's just go get the win. Go pass some drivers if you can. Keep it green, and see if you can get around this 31 machine.
Well, he's been formidable in these last few laps. He has led 11 of them, took over the lead, and clean air, of course, he said hadn't had any clean air on the front splitter since the beginning of this race, and kind of mentioned that, well, it made a difference. Everybody that was up here was giving it 5-star reviews, and it looks like it's no different here now as he hasn't left that position. It seems to be favoring that car quite well.
And Sean Langton is definitely a driver who knows how to use air to hit. One of the VSRL IndyCar drivers, when that was a series, we talked about that a little bit earlier in the show, so he knows how these cars handle. I don't know if he won an Indianapolis race in that series, but he was definitely dominant on the road courses. But we'll see if he can put some of that road course aero knowledge to work here and hold off Adam Baker, hold off Rob Rader, Justin Michael, and Steve Tucker here in the top 5. Or will it be another driver who's able to claim the first ever VSPEED Indy 250? We're only 6 laps away from finding out. I know I'm on the edge of my seat. Hopefully you are as well, everyone at home. Let's get down to it.
6 laps to go. We're gonna move the pace car out of the way. If a caution comes out, that will do it for the rest of this race. Sean Langton, the command car. Green flag is out with still 24 cars. Can we finish it under green at Indy?
Another excellent start for Langton's going to get away by 3, 4, 5 car lengths down into turn number 1. Baker is going to have to dig deep and get everything he's got if he's going to get up to the 31 machine.
He's got the draft here. Is it too soon? He'll look to the inside. What a move here for Adam Baker.
Well, he's going to get to the bottom for sure. Now he's got to hang on. He's got 5 more laps. We're racing the next caution. We're racing to the end of the race. Langton goes high, shows the top
he gets
side.
tight.
Oh, that was a move gone wrong for Langton. He's going to fall back to 3rd. Here comes Rob Rader, the next to take an attempt at the lead.
And Baker's going to hold on to the top spot. He's got a little bit of a cushion here, but he's got to get through these corners
wreck behind
perfectly.
him. We're wrecking
Big
behind
wreck.
him.
That's going to do it, I think.
They're off the racetrack. We stay green.
They're
Caution's
going to
out.
keep going. Caution is
Caution
out now.
is out.
Chad Klinger to the wall, and he's done for the day. And it looks like Adam Baker, with 5 to go, is going to seal the deal unofficially here.
I don't know. We're going to have to see what race control decides if we're going to stay under caution. I think we're going to have a 2-lap shootout to the end here. We're going to have to find out once we get everyone back in line. This is going to be interesting. This might be, I don't know. I'm not sure how this is scored exactly. We're going to see here in a couple laps if it is VSPEED co-owner Adam Baker in the VSPEED machine taking home the win in the VSPEED 250 at Indianapolis. Or will we have one more shot at it?
This is interesting here.
Some drivers in that accident: Caleb Weekly, Brian Hennings, Chad Klinger, Max Kost, and Logan Water, all involved. Some of them able to stay green. You see the nose piece of Caleb Weekly heavily damaged. Chad Klinger on the pit lane.
Try to back this up a little bit further. There's Klinger actually busted already, so let's go into the corner with Caleb Weekly on the outside.
I think it was SNR crime here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing we've seen all day. Just one got tight, one got loose, and they met in the middle, and they were, I think, then behind them another incident. Kind of a secondary thing with Max Kost, and that's what brought out the caution, was Kost stopping on the racetrack. Hennings, I think, was the other driver involved in that, as he now pulls into the pit. 4 laps to go. Pace light still on. I think we are going to get back racing here with 2 to go. Maybe even just a 1 to go. High drama at Indianapolis, as we've come to expect, and as I think everyone wanted this race to be memorable, this race to come down to the wire, and it absolutely is. And 3 different leagues represented. just what we had in mind, obviously. Adam Baker racing well with BTDY. You've got Rob Rader from SNR, Sean Langton coming from VSRL. What did I say? I meant Racing Revolution if I said SNR, apologies. But Racing Revolution, we've got John Langton from VSRL, Justin Michael, Steve Tucker, a lot of drivers from many places here in the VSPEED sphere.
When all these leagues come together, it took a few laps to get acclimated to one another. But this kind of gives them an idea of what the Invitational was like as well. And it took probably a race or two for guys to get used to each other in that as well. And then we shook them all back up, put those two splits back together for split A, Group B, and the final 36. But we are going to go back green with 2 laps to go. It is not a green-white checkered, but it is. Here we go. Adam Baker just has to hold on for 2 laps at Indy.
We just about had a wreck in the back of the field. They keep it green. Baker and Rader get away. Langton in tow. Every corner could be the last one. Will Rader get
with Adam
there?
Baker. He's got the draft here. He's going to pull up to the outside.
Oh, 3 wide for the lead. Langton to the bottom. They split him. They split Adam Baker down the middle. Rader takes the lead. They're into each other here. Oh, my goodness.
And here comes
Baker
Justin
back down
Michael, the dominant car of the day. White flag in the air. We're going to make it official off of turn 4. One more time around. Rob Rader to the lead.
Can anybody catch the 53? You're going to get one shot at it. Down the backstretch.
I
But
don't
side
think
by
they
side's
can.
not helping. It's 7/10 now for Rob Rader.
Baker falls back to 5th. He had the lead to start this thing off. But Rob Rader off of turns 3 and 4. The 4-time champion at Racing Revolution is going to win the inaugural VSPEED Indy 250. The number 53 to victory lane. He's going to kiss the bricks.
Two laps led.
That's all I needed. That's all you needed here. And all the Racing Revolution cars group around him. Adam Baker falls back to the 6th position after that restart. Close deal there. But an all-out brawl for those final 2 laps.
And the last lap of the race for Rob Rader, the fastest lap of the race for any driver in this event by over 0.2 of a second. So he was on it to finish, and this is going to be one photo op that I'm sure they're going to hang on their mantle. Yeah, he earned this one.
And I think every Racing Revolution car that's left standing is out there on the racetrack right now letting him know congratulations.
Yeah, well-earned victory here. I mean, you had to go up against the best VSPEED has to offer. And on a late race restart, was able to show the nerves of steel. Get around Langton, get around Baker, hold off the 3-wide move. And like so many times we've called over the last calendar year, Rob Rader's going to win here on VSPEED.
Well, there he is burning it down on the front stretch. Many donuts being made here on that front straightaway. We're going to have post-race interviews with your top 3. We're going to bring the 4-time champion of Racing Revolution up into the broadcast booth in just a moment's time. And we have the rest of your top 3 with those final race results Right after this, you are watching the very first VSPEED Indy 250. More coverage will continue post-race right after this.
Is going to take the victory 128 laps without a pit stop.
Donnie Kite's going to get through it all and score his first career win. Saturday Night Racing League and throwback at Charlotte goes to Josh Adams.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back here for the first ever Indy 250, the inaugural race for VSPEED, and Rob Rader is going to crown himself a winner in this 250-mile race. 100 laps has concluded, and we finished it under regulation. It was a little bit caution plagued, but I think that's what happens here, Morgan, when you put 11 different leagues onto a racetrack. But outside of that, 12 cautions, 8 lead changes, and the final of which goes to Rob Rader. He led 2 laps here tonight, and most importantly, he led the last one, taking it by storm on that restart. Then you have Justin Michael and Sean Langton for the top 3. We'll get a word with those drivers in just a moment's time. Steve Tucker in the number 26 will finish in the 4th position. Thomas Stokes finishing in 5th. Adam Baker falls back to the 6th spot. Disbelief there for the number 7 machine. Jeremy Burns, the fan favorite over at Racing Rev, will finish in 7th. 8th position for Seth Hatchell. Good to have him back out here on VSPEED. Parker Johnston will finish in 9th. And Christian Peterson, Peterson will finish in 10th.
11th spot goes to Dakota Floyd, who never really was too much of a factor in this race. Had to fight back from a few incidents. Connor Horn, same deal there, finishes in 12th. Riley Laverne up to 13th, had a good run there, up 14 spots from where he started. Nick Alves had an eventful day, finishes 14th, as did Justin Ritchie in the 15th position. Caleb Gilbert and Caleb Weekly make up 16th and 17th position respectively. Michael Call finishes 18th. He just bought this car before the race. Pretty good finish for someone who's never driven this thing. Brian Hennings finishes 19th, and your 20th place finisher is Chris Samard, who led a bunch of laps in this race, caught up in a late race incident.
We've got a lot of cars to talk about here as we go through the rest of this field. The driver that was favored to win this, one of the highest I ratings in the field, will finish in 21st. That's Aaron Smith. Chad Klinger, who led some laps here today, started in 13th. He'll finish 22nd. Max Cost, who also mentioned that he had limited experience in this race car. He'll finish in 23rd. Alex Forget Berube, heavily damaged Racing Revolution car, in 24th. Logan Water in 25th. He had a lot of success early in this race. Matt Robinson went end over end, one of the cars that landed on its lid, in 26th. 27th, Jeff Wright. A lot of mistakes here for some of these guys that we're used to seeing up front. Dylan Picklesheimer, Kyle Adams, and Philip Brewer rounding out your top 30. 4 more cars to talk about here in our field, with Nick Stein finishing in 31st position. Michael Wingo will finish in 32nd. Sean Mullahan will finish 33rd. And Jordan Neese will finish out your field. Well, with that, it's time to take you to victory lane. And Morgan Cook has already ran his way down there from the booth to that victory circle here at Indianapolis. And the top spot driver, Rob Rader, in the number 53.
Well, 4-time, welcome to VSPEED Victory Lane at the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The inaugural Indy 250 presented by VSPEED goes to you. That final restart, you found yourself in second, if I'm not mistaken, in front of Langton, behind Baker. How were you able to make the high side work into turn 3 and lead those final 2 laps?
Man, first of all, let's go. That was an awesome race, man. Thank you guys so much for putting this on. I had no idea what I was doing 2 hours ago, and just kind of learned a little bit at a time. And shout out to Connor Horn, I believe. Not familiar with the guy, never met him before, but at one point in the race, I was riding back there around 10th, and he was just making so much speed. And I was kind of keeping an eye on what he was doing, and he passed me around the outside like it was nothing. And then I watched him pass the next guy in front of me around the outside like it was nothing. And it was at that point that I kind of changed my mentality for the race, and I started watching what he was doing, and I made a good number of passes around the outside of guys, kind of copying what he was doing. I wish I knew what he was doing with the weight jacker, because he was still faster than me, but that was kind of the difference in the race. That's how I got my track position. And also, well, being on the right fuel strategy helped too, but that's how I got my track position. And then I hate it for Adam, but when that caution came out and I had made my way to second, I mean, he was a sitting duck coming off of turn 2. You just knew that unless he was going to do some type of egregious block on me, I was going to be able to clear him. Notice at the last second that I had another guy below me. I believe that was Langton, yeah. And notice the last second he was down there, and fortunately we didn't make any contact, but it got really dicey down there. It was a hell of a race. Thank you guys so much for putting this on. It was so fun. I haven't had this much fun on the service in forever. And yeah, shout out to Adam for not doing anything dumb down the back straightaway. He had 1,000 reasons to do it and didn't. So appreciate him racing clean to the finish.
And I want to talk a little bit about the fuel mileage as well. You mentioned you're on the right fuel strategy. You pitted with 36 laps to go. And as I was told earlier before the race started, 36 was really about the upper limit that you could go under green with max fuel save and fuel map 5 with the draft, all that stuff. And you were able to stretch it 35 laps here to end this run with the cautions. Was there ever a point, or when was that point, I guess, where you were thinking, okay, I can for sure make it to the end. All we have to do is go
It was as soon as we got that caution with, I think, 17 to go. So I was running fuel map 5 that whole time. I was trying to, my whole strategy going into this race, and I kind of stuck to this, was push hard for the first 3, 4, 5 laps, and then try to fall back into fuel savings. And I was running an engine map 5 there for a while behind a few guys, and saved plenty. I know there were a lot of guys that came down and topped off. I think Connor was one of those guys. At the time, I was kicking myself for not following him because I could tell this guy knew what he was doing. But unfortunately, it looked like they were going to come up a little bit short once we got going green. But I kind of just committed to the map 5 strategy there for a little while. And then by the time we got that first caution, 17 laps to go, I mean, at that point, I could go maybe not 100%, but it was 99% to the end and make it. You know, I knew I could manage it from there. So, and that's, you know, shout out to all the Racing Revolution guys, because we had a lot of guys in there, and I didn't have a full grasp on what these fuel numbers looked like. But I had guys from Racing Revolution in there helping me out, giving me fuel numbers. You know, here's how far you can make it. Here's the engine map number you should be looking at right now. So, a bit of a team effort there to put me in position for sure.
Well, you came in today and showed that your teamwork with the Racing Revolution guys brought you home the inaugural Indy 250 win here on VSPEED. Who do you want to thank besides Connor Horn and your teammates? Who do you want to shout out here for a historic win for an already 4-time champion?
Well, obviously, first off, dude, I got to thank you guys. You guys don't get enough credit from all the people who are part of leagues you guys broadcast and everything else. I mean, everybody knows you guys do a good job, but you know, putting on events like this is taking things to the next level and making VSPEED something special, and even more special than it already is. So shout out to you guys for putting on a good event. Race Control was on top of it tonight. You guys, I'm sure, put on an excellent broadcast as always. So big shout out to VSPEED. Can't wait for the Invitational. Hopefully we can run it back. Other than that, Chapman Environmental Services on the IndyCar for the first time tonight in Victory Lane. Super cool. All the guys that make it happen over at Racing Revolution, and all the guys that we had tonight running from Racing Revolution. Obviously, I won the race, but I think we had multiple guys in the money tonight, so that's always good too. And yeah, man, this is awesome. Thank you guys so much for putting this together. I can't wait for the next one.
Awesome. Well, that's your winner here tonight, Mr. 4-time Rob Rader, claiming the inaugural Indy VSPEED 250. Congratulations, sir. And we'll see you next time.
Let's go.
Yeah, big win here for driver 53. Now we're going to toss it back over to Bradley Cooper, who's standing alongside Justin Michael.
Yeah, I've caught up with your second place finisher, Justin Michael, and you dominated the first third of this race. And that clean air, it seemed like once you lost it there with the strategy, the pit road, the cautions, whatever the case might have been there for you, it just got more and more difficult to find your way back to the front. But you really thundered along there. You restarted outside, I believe, the top 5 there, and just ripped off the fastest lap times you possibly could and got back to a podium position. That 87 was fast tonight.
Yeah, that last restart, I said, it checkers or wreckers at that point. I cranked the wake jacker down and just sent it, and it was the best restart I got all night, and I made a little risky move there. I think it was 3, but it paid off, and I don't know. I think if Shine wouldn't have been to the outside there, and I would have had a clean run into 1, I don't know. I'd had a shot maybe at getting him for the win, but it would have been tough. He was fast, and that air is just, once you have that air, you're unstoppable.
Yeah, that clean air made all the difference. We saw it a lot here tonight. Different cars starting to dominate. The race stays green for a while, and then you guys get settled in. It seems like something happens there with the guys in dirty air. But this race car, such a different approach. And, Justin, this might be my first time interviewing you personally, but I got to ask, what is your background outside of what we saw here tonight? What are you most comfortable running?
Yeah, it's my first time on this channel. You guys do a really good job, and hopefully we get to come back over again at some point. But I'm more like I like cars with fenders on them, so you can be a little more rough with them. And so I race with a couple of the guys on Mondays and Thursdays, and they sent an invite to us. I figured I'd give it a shot and see, since it was a money race, and I guess it paid off. So, but no, I really like the trucks for the most part, and ARCA cars are pretty cool, and the A and Bs are, they're all right. But no, I really like the trucks or anything with fenders and some road racing here and there. The IndyCars definitely is not my background, that's for sure.
Well, you could have fooled me here tonight. You get a podium finish in the very first Indy 250 for VSPEED. Justin, Michael, on the broadcast, anybody you want to shout out while we have you?
Yeah, just like I said, you guys put on a great race. We'll go back and watch it later, and hopefully it was a good amount of viewers, and hopefully we put on a good show for all of them. And I guess you guys put on the race as well, so we appreciate that. And hopefully hopefully do it again next year. If you guys do any other special races, definitely let us know. We'll come back over.
Yeah, we're definitely going to go ahead and announce there on the VSPEED Invitational. So all are welcome that are a part of our broadcasting umbrella. And, Justin, you're more than invited, more than welcome to come over to that, because it'll be a little bit different format. It's going to be a 2-day event, but it'll be the second ever for that as well.
Sounds good. We'll be here.
Justin, Michael, second place here in the Indy 250. We'll look forward to possibly seeing you there the second week of July.
Thanks, guys.
And there's one more driver here. Morgan Cook has caught up with him. It's our third place finisher, Sean Langton, who's going to come up into the broadcast booth. And, that lime green machine definitely had the speed here tonight. Morgan, I know we're trying to gather him in right now, but, just a phenomenal day for this car.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like Michael Waltrip right now on the grid walk, having no idea where anybody is. Yeah, dropping the flag, fumbling around pit road. Not sure what happened to driver 31, Sean Langton. He seems to have exited the racing facility, and we're unable to get a hold of him. But third place finish for the 31. Had a great run as kind of a late entry to this. I think he got into this thing as of yesterday, and showed that he is pretty good at the IndyCar. Was almost able to make it work, was obviously leading with a couple restarts to go, and then Baker got him. The caution came out, and he wasn't quite able on that last lap or second to last lap, 3-wide move to be able to get the lead back from Rob Rader. So if he was up here, I imagine he would thank the teammates, he would thank his parents for watching, and he would thank VSPEED for putting on a phenomenal show here for the Indy 250. And I'm just so glad that this was able to turn out as well as it did, for all the drivers involved, for all the fans who watched at home, all the sponsors. Really a great show, Brad.
Well, I don't know when we stop getting overwhelmed by our turnouts, because we had a great turnout there for the Invitational. And then also we had the race for 8 there where we were turning drivers away. So, everybody here, the community at VSPEED that helped put this on, all of the leagues, most importantly, the fans and the people that support the drivers. Thank you all for being a part of this in our very first Indy 250. If you did enjoy tonight's action, I know it got rough at times, but it was enjoyable and a great finish. And that checkered flag going to Rob Rader. You can catch more live action here on VSPEED, as we'll be bringing you more racing action on Sunday and Saturday night. We got more things set up here. June 1st, we're going to go racemrl.com. You can go check that out, as they'll be having their summer series and a little pre-race, pre-season taste there for NSRLA. I think I got that acronym correct there, Morgan.
Yeah, well done.
All right, so you can also catch that this weekend, and then it's back to Racing Revolution and their Truck Series and the Cup Series on Wednesday next week. But for everybody here at VSPEED that helped put it on, Anna Baker in the background, all the things, the levers, the knobs, all the things he has to do to put this together, Morgan Cook, my co-host, and everybody that helped sponsor this with Keo, Race MRL, and Juicy Spider Studios. This is Bradley Cooper and Morgan Cook saying so long from Indianapolis. We'll see you next time here on VSPEED. Until then, stay tracking, everybody.